So welcome to From Clipboard to Cloud, IMAGINiT FormsConnected. Our presenters today are our IMAGINiT FormsConnected experts, Madison Fuller and Liesl Pinsulu. So with that, Madison, I'm going to go ahead and hand the floor over to you.
Sounds great. Thanks so much. Hey everyone, I appreciate you taking the time to join the webinar today. We're really excited about our newest solution, FormsConnected, that we released in March, and really looking forward to showing everyone what it consists of. So quick agenda, we're going to review the problems we solved first and then go into a high-level overview of the solution and then go into a demo as well that Lisa will be running, and then we will address questions at the end. So jumping right in, we are an offline data collection solution for the field or floor with a goal to streamline communication and get the data where it needs to go in real time. So it's typically going to start with some sort of outdated process for data collection and reporting. So examples here are going to be using paper, Excel, fillable PDFs. This causes wasted time because it takes a long time to complete the documentation and to get the data where it needs to be, which is typically back to an office setting or into some sort of external business system. It also causes problems with data integrity because manual methods result in incomplete and inaccurate reports. And of course, liability and fines ties into this. Inaccurate data collection and missing documentation will lead to fines and lawsuits. And of course, all of this results in higher costs and lost revenue for your business. And diving in a bit deeper, these are some of the more common challenges we hear from our customers when looking to implement something like FormsConnected. So gaps in communication and delayed data lead to project slowdowns. Inaccurate documentation, along with not having real-time visibility, creates safety risk across their teams. And this lack of real-time visibility makes it hard to make informed decisions and act on insights. So an interesting stat, 68% of data available to enterprises is not actually put to use. So it's really important to have it all digitized and organized to understand what's happening across your business and make decisions confidently. And before we actually jump into a solution overview, we're going to do a quick poll question here following the challenges slide to see if you all resonate with any of these. So reading it off, do you all currently face challenges with any of the following? Paper-based forms, manual data reentry, delays in field reporting, compliance and audit tracking, or disconnected systems?
Close it, and I will share the results with you.
Perfect. Yeah, so pretty even across the board here. Looks like manual data reentry is one of the top ones. We'll actually get into that too when we get into an integrations portion of the presentation today. But yeah, these are ultimately the challenges we help to streamline, and we'll address these throughout the slides and demo. Go back a slide. Here's the industries that I just talked to, and then the common use cases listed beneath them. All right. So jumping into the solution and what FormsConnected actually does. So we're really the easiest to use offline form and data collection platform that helps your field teams capture information easily and then send it back in real time, closing communication gaps and eliminating those data reentry methods. So in the visual here, you see the two main components of the platform. The mobile app over here on the right-hand side is where all of the data collection takes place. This is designed to be as simple as possible because we know if it's not simple, field teams will not use it. And this also works offline. And then you have the admin panel. This really gives you control and visibility into your data and also has a dispatching tool in there as well. And also in the admin panel is the form builder. I did want to highlight this because it's drag and drop, no code required. You can really build anything you want. And you can also make changes instantly when you need to as well. So you don't need an IT background to be able to use this. And you will also see this today during the demo. All right, and then just another visual, so you can see what the data collection looks like on the application side, and when it's submitted, it converts into a PDF that's also customizable, and you can make it look however you want, and this will get stored in the admin panel but also can get pushed into any critical business systems, which brings me to my next slide. So your data does not have to solely live in FormsConnected. We do have integration capabilities with thousands of other systems, including ACC, Fusion Manage, Bluebeam, as well as accounting, CRM, and ERP softwares. We want to always push into your systems of record to expand the data footprint and make sure that it's actually being optimized. And integrations can range from a simple PDF upload, but also can go into field level updates with bidirectional data flow. We can custom build these for you, so sky is really the limit with what you want to accomplish to streamline your data entry process. All right, and last thing to note before we jump into the demo, we do have an analytics function as well. So any data being captured within FormsConnected can be turned into customizable dashboards based on what you're looking to track across your business. It does get updated in real time as well. Common use cases here we see include tracking team performance and productivity, corrective actions, and also analyzing asset and equipment usage. You can easily export any of the data for presentations, or you can schedule reports to be sent automatically for stakeholders as well. All right, and that wraps up the solution overview. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Liesl to go into a quick demo so you all can see it in action.
My name is Liesl, and I am here to teach you about FormsConnected. Okay, so since this is called from clipboard to cloud, I thought why not start with what that clipboard can look like, right? By the poll answers, it's pretty clear that we're all kind of tired of things that look a lot like this, or like, let's see here, this and this, right? Clipboard's also very subject to the person's handwriting, which then an intake clerk is going to have to sit and decipher. And that just takes a ton of time. And we can make things happen a whole lot faster with FormsConnected. So the first view I'll show you here is the online view. This is what you would see when you log into FormsConnected in a desktop browser. This is where we can digitize those forms and also control the other functions. All right, so I do want to brag about one of the fastest things we have within FormsConnected, which is the quick start. I took this PDF and created from it a digital form in literal minutes, and it looks like this, right? So here's a space where you can upload a PDF and simply drag the desired field types onto that PDF. It's also quite cool in that you can test it right here and also download what it might look like. If we step out of this, we go back to editing and jump down into submissions, where we can see submission data. We'll be able to take a look at the PDFs here as well. So let's actually take a look at what things look like in the app itself. Okay, so just remember for me that little digital form over there. We're going to take a look at what this looks like in practice. So instead of writing anything, we're here now in the FormsConnected app. We're doing a quick sync to make sure we have the most up-to-date version of everything from the back end. We can see tasks over here. I have received one. This is part of one of our collaborative tools, which I'll get into in a bit. We can also go into where it says forms and select the form that we want to fill out. So let's do the simple client information one. Right, my typing is not fast, especially when I'm nervous. So please excuse me. We have the capacity to also capture multiple lines of text over here, which becomes important a little bit later. Putting in some phone numbers. Oops. I'm used to folks being able to talk to me during these webinar sessions, so right now I'm feeling mighty awkward, but I'll keep going. I'll keep going just for you all. Here, the other cool thing is that you can type in an address, right? I do apologize for any noise you might be able to hear in the background. I have little kittens. They are brand new and running amok. But the cool thing over here is that we can click on this arrow and we'll be able to choose or open up that address in our preferred Maps app, which is quite cool. Here we have, you know, a drop-down option to decide the state over there. And a zip. And there's a whole bunch more information here that we don't have to sit through. We can choose our date of birth very quickly. That is accurate. I am a millennial. Is this a previous customer? Yes or no? Who are they preferred by? Let's say it's just Greg. And then we'll click on next. Here we can email this out to anyone, but the first thing I really want to show you is creating a submission over here and being able to go into our little completed box over here and take a look at what that looks like in the PDF format. Now remember, I did mention that it took me just minutes to actually digitize this form. It's really quite impressive when you take a look at doing things from scratch here. For example, if you click on Create New and go into Basic Form, it really is just dragging in that PDF and adding the appropriate fields. Now, what makes this different to, you know, similar things is that you can really control the information that you are collecting here, right? What is the shape of the data? We want to make sure that it's consistent for you so that when you're looking at all of the submission data, for example, in a spreadsheet format, you don't have to go and make sure that all of the dates are in the correct format, right? We're not allowing people to type into their heart's content. We're controlling the data that we're receiving by customizing each and every field, and it does not have to take long. So if you have a particular paper form that you are very attached to and you want to stick with what it looks like, you can make that happen with our Quick Start Builder or Basic Form Builder. But then we get into things that are a bit more complex and take up a lot more space, like this quality inspection sheet over here. Right? This is a manager's walk and quality inspection sheet. It also has scoring. All right, and then here, if there is a score of 89% or less, it will require a re-inspection. Now, we can have conditional logic within these forms as well, which is really quite cool. Logic trees to make sure that the form is suited exactly to the use case. All right, so let's jump back into our app here. We'll go into forms. And let's see here. It would be very funny if I did not assign this form to myself, which is exactly what happened, right? That's how you know I'm not a robot. So let me go ahead and assign it to myself here. And I suppose that is another benefit, is that you can make sure that only the people you want to have see particular forms can see particular forms. And that's the same for submission data and reference data as well, which is what we use to make our forms smarter. So that's going to be how you can leverage information that you already have at your disposal. So let's jump back in here, do another sync, and fill out that form. I believe there should be a easy API to leverage the stored data to feed into other things. That's what Madison was referring to when she spoke about integrations, right? So the data is not stuck in FormsConnected. It can definitely be used through integrations with other software that you're currently using or that you at some point acquire. Okie dokie, let's get into this manager's walk and quality inspection sheet. Now, again, we're using reference data here, and that reference data is pretty much, let me show you, a spreadsheet of information, right? So let's take a look here at the jobs. I think it's in here. And we're using this information to power the form that we're currently using. So we can go ahead and select a community. The job number is popping up, as is the address, as well as the superintendent, okay? Here, inspected by, this is a list of our employees that we have at our disposal as well. And then we can put in a plan here. Right? And we have our inspection date here as well. Even with the date, like I was mentioning earlier, we can decide what shape that is in within the builder itself, because my heart is yearning for day, month, year as a South African, but for you all, I will leave it at month, day, year. Okay, so we've completed this screen here. We can also remember information, right? So we can say, you know what, I want to remember this information for next time. And then when I open up a blank form, I can recall that information into those spaces instead of having to type it out again. Now, let's imagine for a second that I am a very experienced, inspector of these things. I have my checklist over here. I can see all of the things that I want to check, and I have also an overview of the answers that I've put in. None have been put in thus far. I'm going to go into this first item here, and I can say, there I have the other information, my standards basically for my check item, and I can say yes, no, or not applicable. This is zoomed in a lot for the benefit of the shared screen. It's quite comical though. Let's get in here. Let's say it's a no for this, right? And we can just say lots of things. We can also just click to the right here to go to each and every one of our check items if we wish. We can click on done to look at the table view of this again. And so we'd be able to see, what have we checked, what have we not yet checked, right? So we have all of these popping up from reference data, which means we can change the parameters or the requirements of this inspection simply by changing the data on the back here in the reference data space, which then also means we don't have to keep on updating the form. So the form remains flexible through reference data that is updatable at all times, right? So let's go next. We have some other checklists happening here. But let's go to the end. We have our scores tallying up over here. And then we have a required field, which forces one to actually put something in it. I cannot go to next until I complete this. And then because the score was so low, it is telling me to escalate it to the Director of Construction, or ACM. We'll click on next here. And because this needs to be escalated, there's now actually a space, where they can put in their review. Now, if I were a field technician or a field inspector and I was doing all of this work and it's finished and I want to send it through FormsConnected through a colleague of mine, I could reassign it. So here I can click on reassign, I can put a name in here, I can say review, and I can click on reassign and then assign it to anyone here. Assigning it to myself will show what this looks like in a circle, pretty much. And then once I do a sync, I'll also receive a notification that I've received that assignment. Other things we can do in here, we can unassign a form that we're busy using so that someone can continue it for us. Right, let's say we go into forms and we go back into this one, a new submission here. Let's say we're going to change this and we're going to just unassign it from ourselves here, right? Now we can see that there's one available task. Now, anyone who's been assigned to this form will be able to see, okay, this is the situation. Here's the information we have about it thus far. We can preview the PDF output, right, which is what gets emailed out. We can see all of the information that's already there, and we can decide, are we in a space to do this? And if we are, we can simply click on claim and add it to our task list. Particularly useful because things happen in the field that prevent work from getting done. And instead of having to drive paperwork back to the office or have to print fresh paperwork, we can simply send it through FormsConnected. Okay, so we have these collaborative tools as well, which means I think someone, let me take a look quickly at some of the poll answers again. disconnected systems, delays in field reporting, right? So when we're talking about field reporting, this is pretty much immediate. Madison mentioned that it is an offline solution, which just means that while you're filling out a form, it will live on the device itself, okay? Until you click on something like submit, or until you're within signal range to actually upload information, it will be safe, it will be saved if you click on save and close when you exit that form. Okay, so for example, if we're in this QC checklist over here and we're doing some work and we need to stop for a second, we can simply save and close. Right? Which means now we can also exit the app entirely and come back later and continue that. Are there more questions coming through? Not seeing any just yet. Manual data re-entry is therefore not necessary, right? We're entering this data once, it's captured once, and then it's used for whatever we need to use it for. I've seen, small companies benefit from this, where they have to compete with companies with larger workforces, but you can literally go, if send out a work order, for example, and you'll have a field technician out capturing the information for this work order. They're going to be able to give us estimates, what material do we need, what labor do we need, and have that be sent to the office immediately for approval. And then once it's approved, that PDF is going to land in that prospective customer's inbox within 10 minutes, right? Depending on what the manager was doing when reviewing this particular thing. So yeah, when it comes to the sort of capabilities of FormsConnected, we only have looked at very simple forms over here, but I do want to talk to you about the fact that we can take this really to the nth degree, right? So there's a lot of compliance documentation that various industries need to have in order to keep their businesses, themselves, and their employees and customers safe. And that can also happen through FormsConnected. You can build wonderfully complex forms, long forms with fabulous looking PDFs, official documentation style, and have that be the output, and have that done within 5 minutes instead of risking that documentation being lost and your business from being in trouble. So it's a great solution for that as well. Okay. Again, when we come to look at submissions over here, we can export this data. Let's go to our work order, for example. We can click on export here, and we'll choose a time frame, right? And we'll say what format we'd like to see it in. Let's say we want to see it in CSV format, and we can also make sure that this data is perhaps being exported regularly, all right? And then we'll be able to see it in whatever format and use it for whatever things we want to use it for. If you are a genius in Excel, I'm sure you can make the best charts and graphs and things, but then also for those integrations that we mentioned earlier, your information can move from here to there. The other thing is also true that with reference data and images over here, you will see that I uploaded them through Excel CSV files, but you can also have an integration, feed information into here, and through that power your forms. So, this is going to be the checklist of your quality control. If those parameters need updating, if you have new employees, if you have a list of customers who are regular customers, selecting their name and having their information pop up automatically is very useful. When you are wanting to do a quote, making sure that whatever it is you are selling, you have a price list or like an estimate list within your reference data so that no one is forced to try and remember the cost of every single item. They can just select the item and that cost can pop up. Again, we don't want, the people in the field using this on the mobile device to be struggling, to be slowed down, or to sort of put them at risk of capturing errors over here. We want clean, consistent data, right, in specific shapes. We want to prevent errors, and we don't want to force anyone to do math in their heads in the field, because in FormsConnected, we can, of course, also do those calculations. When I click on edit here for that manager's walk, and quality inspection, you'll see we have some reference data in action over here, but we also have all of our lovely little calculations going on. So we're working out percentages from values that we've captured, and it didn't look this complicated in the app, right? Because this is the building. But the building itself is also not that complicated because it is drag and drop, right? And once you have something here and you click onto it, you'll be able to see more customization options over here. We're going to start afresh by looking at the builder very quickly. Clicking on Create New and going into Advanced Form over here. I do want to show you how drag and drop this really is. And there's also some cool automation settings within FormsConnected that can make our lives easier. Let's take, for example, let me see here. If we were to do this manufacturing form, right? The first piece of information you want to know is the assembly name. You could simply type that in here, click on enter, and you have a field. You could also then test it over here to see how it's working for you, and it shows what it might look like on the mobile device, right? You can publish this, you can test it, and you can also design a PDF for it. And designing a PDF is just making sure that what is getting sent out is something pretty. We can edit this, we can make sure that it matches the branding of your company. You can put your logos in here, your actual hex codes of the branding, right? You have those options here. You can add in text that doesn't actually exist in the form itself. You can add entire pages of terms of service, aftercare instructions, whatever the case may be. Yeah, it really is a full digitized forms system and more. All right, I did mention collaborative tools, and we took a quick look at assignments, but we also have workflows, right? So if I just reactivate one of our forms here, which is also an option, you don't have to delete things, they can still live here. If we take a look at this work order, right, we have the job details over here. Then we want a work description. Then we want, what materials do we need? We simply select the material, the unit of measurement and cost per unit pop up for us automatically. Let's add another item here. And then here we have labor. Let's say we'll need equipment operators. Again, we're selecting that, and then the hourly rate is popping up automatically because we have put that into our reference data. And the information is subject to change, but we don't have to change the form itself in order to make that happen. Here we have our calculations happening automatically. If I jump all the way to the back here and actually put in a field technician's name, it will be repeated here by one of our mirror fields. We can capture the signature here. Remember, this is just a tester, so this information will not be saved. Here we have a manager's name that popped up automatically, and they can approve this, but they can also deny it, in which case an issue screen can pop up, or they can say they're only partially approving it, in which case we have other things to pop up as well. And let's say we only want to release $1,000. We can also find out the balance there from the calculations that are active within the form itself. Now, forms like these can be built in way less than a day. The basic forms can be built within minutes and be immediately useful. So we're serving everything from, simple forms, simple client intake form, one-pagers, to tens of pages for compliance documentation. I do see some integration questions about Smartsheet and SharePoint. I think Madison can take us further on that one. But yeah, happy to show you more functions of FormsConnected at any time. Let me know. But that's pretty much it for me, I think.
Awesome, thanks, Liesl. And we're getting close to addressing questions at the end here. But before we go into Q&A, we did want to launch the final 2 poll questions here that should be popping up any second for you all. One, do you see potential for FormsConnected benefiting your workflows? Yes, possibly. No, or unsure. about 10 seconds to answer this one. Okay, there we go. Yep, need more information. I was thinking a lot of answers would be that way.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, and for anyone unsure or who needs more info, I would recommend reaching out because we can set up a demo and walk through your actual process. And a lot of times what we do is build out one of your forms so that you can actually visualize it within your company. So we're happy to do that with any of you to go more in depth with anything and make something more personalized for you. And last question here we're asking y'all, and then we're going to open up the floor. Where do you think FormsConnected could add the most value? So some specific options here: inspection, safety audits, work orders, and then just general field to office reporting.
And I'll share.
Perfect. Yep, pretty spread across the board. Looks like a lot of people just field to office reporting in general. So yeah, again, if you all want to see any of these specifically, we're happy to meet and show you.
Yep.
So we do have some AEC specific webinars. That one's going to be August 26th, and this is going to have use cases as well as a demo of some of the built-out integrations with ACC. So, for example, there are ones pushing time and materials into cost management, and then we'll have a manufacturing specific webinar as well on August 28th, which will also consist of use cases and some demos of integrations with Fusion Manage. So if you all are interested in these webinars, there will be links in the follow-up email sent to you after this webinar to register. And now we will go ahead and open it up to Q&A.